Record to this computer. Yep, and one moment while I share to Facebook. Oh, hang on a second, something's happening on Facebook. I have to, it's always something, right? Hang on.
I didn't know that you can stream out of a Zoom meeting live to Facebook.
Yes, you can.
Oh, great. So one time you are going to tell me how to do it.
Yes. Let's
Not
see.
now.
It's very easy. Um, I'm sorry, I'm taking a minute to do this. There we go. Okay. All right. Got some more people joining us. Wonderful. Excited to have everyone here. Welcome, Teddy and Tina. And I'll try to go to Facebook again. There we go. I'm so nervous. There's always like, there's so many things that could go wrong, and there seems to be going okay. So, all right. So you should get a note that says we're going on to Facebook Live, and so this interview will be available as a recording on Facebook Live, and also be available as a recording on my YouTube page, and I'll send out links to all of that. And Teddy, I'm going to go ahead and mute you. And let's see. There we go. Okay. All right. So welcome everyone to the Improvising Harpist. This is my first interview with anybody. And I'm excited that Stefanie is my first guest, and we're going to be talking about improvising. Yeah, she said, how many hours do we have to talk tonight? So, Stefanie, I'm delighted that you're here, and I'm just going to leap right into some questions, and we'll just have a conversation. And then everyone, if you have questions that you'd like to ask, just put them in the chat, and we'll have her answer questions as we go along. So tell us first off, I love hearing everybody's story about how did you come to play the harp?
Oh, this is a story that might take an hour to tell, but I'm trying to do the short version. So I'm a flute player. I studied flute in Frankfurt at the music high school or music university, and I'm a trained orchestra player and a teacher, instrumental teacher, and it was very stressful. And I really lost the joy of playing music. After my final exam, I realized that I only got unwrapped my flute for teaching, and I hated teaching the teenage girls, and they hated playing with me, to be honest. And so we hated each other, and I thought this is not a good idea to spend the rest of my life doing that. And then I reminded myself of the time before I went to the university, and I have been playing just for fun and for relaxation after school. And I used to play a lot of guitar as well, and singing all those Bob Dylan and Simon and Garfunkel songs. And I was just playing some accompany stuff and just having some fun. And I wanted to get back to these roots of playing. And then I remembered that even earlier in my childhood, I had a lot of fun just drumming on empty washing, what you use for washing, the washing pulver. It was in big tons, and I could drum on those tons. And I played flute recorder, and I was singing a lot, just what came to my mind, and I wanted to get back there. And after about 1 year of not playing the flute, I took part in a class that was called Talking with Notes or with Tones. And it was an improvisation class for flute players. And we were asked to sit on meditation cushions. And I thought I'm somewhere in a crazy world. They are all mad, and but okay, I had paid for it, and so I sat down, and we were asked to listen for our inner note, or for our inner sound that rings. And I did not hear anything. Everybody said, oh, I was hearing this and that, and then I did not hear anything. I was completely empty, and it was a bit frustrating for me. But at the end of the weekend, I realized there is something. I could not really grab it, but there was something. And 2 days later, I was listening to the radio, and there was a song from Lorena McKennitt, one of the very old ones. I think it was Anarchy Gordon or something like that. And she's only playing the harp and singing, not all the world music stuff she's doing today. And this was like it just thrilled me completely. And I thought, this is my sound. This is the sound I was asked to find last weekend. And so I ringed the harp teacher from the music school, and I told her, listen, where can I get a rental harp? I want to get a lever harp. I want to start playing the harp. And she said, why? You are so old already. You are too old. You are too old. And I said, okay, then give me the number of the funeral service. Okay. Then I got a very bad vote on. I mean, no, we are not bashing, but it was a really bad harp that I got. And I started playing with her, with that teacher, and she went into the classical direction again, where I came from, and I didn't want to go back. I wanted to play accompaniment, I wanted to play non-classical stuff. And I told her, and she was not flexible, so I left her. And I tried 3 more classical teachers, and it was the same catastrophe. And finally, I decided I have to do it myself. I had some information about technique, and I saw that it's not working on these smaller harps to play with so much power and so much muscle involving. So I developed my own technique. And I started to watch people that played that kind of music that I wanted to play. And because I had a lot of knowledge from my studies, it was easy for me to analyze what they are doing, and I was able to analyze what I wanted to do. And so that was the way I came to the harp. And then after about 3 months, I was asked to play in a service. That was the way I came to the harp. And then
sorry, we got somebody to mute.
I was asked. Aha, okay. I'm listening to myself. I was asked to play in the service, and they wanted me to play the flute, of course, because they didn't know that I now am playing the harp as well. And to be honest, I only could play some fifths, like something like this. That was all I could do. And they wanted meditation music they projected a picture to the wall and wanted some meditation music, very calm. And I said, okay, I can play flute at the beginning and the end of the service, and in the middle at the meditation part, I could play a bit of harp music. And they said, oh, harp music. And then after the service, I had played Bach sonatas and Handel sonatas, quite difficult things, flute and organ, and these fifths. And then all the people came to me and said, the harp music was so lovely. It was so fantastic. I was so deeply touched. It was so soothing. It was so calming for me. I could relax completely. It was so fantastic. And then I waited if they would say something about my flute playing, and nobody mentioned it. And then I thought, okay, obviously it's not about being good or being like an artist in a circus. It's more about offering a sound that touches people somewhere inside. It it's it doesn't matter how good I am. It's it's just that I present the sound of this instrument, and the instrument itself has this touching sound. And when I play something that does not stress me, and I'm not excited to play it, but I take it easy and play something that sounds beautiful, and that's it. Why on earth have I struggled so much in my life?
Right. You hit it right on the head, hit the nail right on the head. This is the same way that I feel about my own music, and I won't go into my own story except to say that I grew up in a very musical family and with very perfectionistic parents, and I was never good enough. And and so I left music when I was 15. I burned out, and I thought I'm never going back to music. And then I had an illness. That was my turning point for playing the harp myself. And I was living in Hawaii at the time, and I had decided I wanted to play the harp because I always wanted to play the harp since I was a little kid. But I was told, no, you have to learn piano first. And I learned piano. I wasn't very good. I wasn't good enough. I quit. And then 27 years later, I was presented with this opportunity to play. And because my teacher was a healing harpist, learned from Christina Turin at the International Harp Therapy Program. That's what she taught me. And that for me, I had the same experience of it was more important to play something that was soothing, that was beautiful, and was simple. And as the longer I've played the harp, I've been playing for about 15 years now. I also was too old to start, right? Um, when the more I play, the more I understand how powerful the instrument is, that it plays a lot of notes for you. When you play, you pluck one string, so many strings are also vibrating, so you don't have to play all of the notes. You can just play, some of the notes and still get that big effect from it. And so I also prefer to play, and this is what I teach too, is that I tell my students, you're giving a gift. Give this as a gift. It's not a performance like a circus, like you said. That's so stressful to feel like you're in that position, versus I'm here to help people relax. When I play my sound baths myself, I start my concerts by saying, someone look around the room, someone in this room is going to fall asleep. And you need to bless them because A, they're so tired, and B, they trust you enough to sleep in your presence. And so let them sleep and let them absorb that music deeply. And so I never feel it's insult or anything like that when someone falls asleep in my concert. I'm like, yes, go to sleep, enjoy the music so deeply. It's wonderful that way. So wow, what a wonderful story. And that I love that you just got out there and played your fifths, because I tell my beginning students, the harp is so powerful. You can just play very simple stuff, just what you're talking about, and people will love it, because most people have never seen a harp in person. No matter how many times you go out and play, so many people have never seen one up close. And it makes them go gooey, as we all know, like, oh, the harp, I love the harp. I love being the person that gives that to them, offering that music to them. So in your journey, then you're like moving away from classical music, more towards folk music and more towards meditative music. And so tell us a little bit about this different technique of playing that you have came up with.
Yeah, it's basically I was taught. Wait, I can change my camera so that you can see my hand. So I was taught what we all probably learned. The thumb must be up all the time, and this finger, the fingers must be down, and then you must pull it with some strength into the palm, and then they all said, and this is why we don't like lever harps, because they don't sound beautiful. And I thought, well, maybe they need some other treatment. So maybe if I don't use so much power, maybe if I just reduce the pressure, because this sounds like a lot of pressure to me, and it sounds very hard
Hmm.
and very stressful. I don't like this sound. It's maybe it's because the bigger harps need this power. They have a higher tension. But the smaller harps, and this is a dust string which still has quite a tension, but maybe I can experiment with the tension. And I came from the flute and I knew that different flutes need different embouchures. And so I thought maybe different harps need different playing technique. So I decided to completely find out what this instrument needs, and not what any concept of how to play the harp says, and then you have to find the instrument that sounds with this concept. No, I decided to adjust my playing concept to what I find. And I find this harp, and sometimes I'm playing on a very small harp, I have a 16 stringed harp from Derwent, and these harps really are not the great sound miracles, I would say. They are very tiny, perfect for taking away with a canoe, but the sound is a bit poor. But still, when I'm playing on this little Cinderella thing, I get the best out of it. And many people say, wow, when you play this little harp, it's sounding much better than when I play on it. And I say, this is because I completely dedicate my technique to that harp. I adjust my technique to that harp. And I don't want the harp to adjust to me. It has something to do with what do you say, if you are willing to commitment. It has to do something with commitment
Yeah,
to the things that are there, and not wishing something else to be there, but I take what is there and I try to arrange in what is given. And that is what I'm also doing when I'm improvising. I'm not trying to do something that I don't have. I'm playing with that what I have.
yeah. It's when you, as you're describing that, it sounds like a dance, like you're dancing with a partner. And
Tango.
when you're, when you're dancing with someone who's very tall, you're going to be, dancing some way different than if you're dancing with someone who's short, or dancing a tango versus dancing a waltz versus dancing a disco. It's if you tried to apply the same dance steps to the music, of course it would be awkward and wouldn't be right, and your partner probably wouldn't appreciate it very much. And I never really, until you said this, never really given that much thought to how different each one. I have a lot of harps, and how different each one is, but I do play them differently. But I hadn't really consciously come to what you're saying today, so I'm really appreciating how you're describing this. So my next question for you is for people who have spent their life on the page, learning to read music, learning to play the harp from sheet music, where's a great place for them to start improvising?
Yeah, there's no simple answer to that question because it depends. It depends on so many things. Um, there are more than one way to approach improvisation. If you are a person that is very tolerant towards a failure, so if you don't care too much about, so to say, wrong notes, notes that in your ears don't sound usual, let's say, instead of bad, I try to say not used to. I'm not used to that sound. If I'm tolerant to this experience, then I can start with the chaos idea. The chaos idea is that I accept everything that happens and try to adjust to that, to what happens. And that will be, I mean, okay, I will show it later. The other concept, if you are a person that likes to have some security, some safety belt, so to say, or something to grab on, because you are so perfectionistic, raised up as a perfectionist, as you probably are, as you told me, then I would say maybe it's better to start with a simple structure, because chaos is not structure. Structure can develop out of chaos, or you can start with structure. And there you have different structures. You can use a certain rhythm structure, or you can use a harmonic structure, or you can use a melodic structure. Um, Depends what you like. And so let me give you an example for a chaos start, which is, I think, is very exciting because you know already it might happen that it doesn't sound good. You are just exploring what is happening. So what you can do is, my harp is in the key of C, and if you like, you can try it with me. You, I, I close my eyes and I take one of my hands, let's say the bass hand, was most of you will play it with the left hand, um, and I just put my hand with, let's say, three fingers somewhere on the harp, some shape that I'm don't choosing consciously. I'm just letting my hand fall into the strings. And then I open my eyes and see, oh, what do I have? Okay, no, I can show you my hands a little bigger. Um, my hand showed me a triad. It's a first inversion of the A minor chord. And then I'm playing this like maybe like that. And I'm listening to that. So this is not so much chaos. Let me try again because I really want to have chaos. Okay, this is chaos maybe. It's A, B, and E. And then I'm playing these three notes a couple of times and just listening to them. They don't sound too bad, I think. I mean, it's not so much chaos, but a bit more than a triad. And then after a while, I, I add some note in my upper hand and just listening. Not judging, I'm just listening. How does that sound? And does that want to go anywhere? Or do I want to stay? Does it want to stay? And I can try what happens if I go one step higher. Wow, that's beautiful. And then I'm playing around with that. It's just a little idea that came out of nowhere. I didn't plan to do it. It just happened. And then I'm reacting to what I'm hearing. I hear that, and I have the idea to go on one step or one step down. want to go on another step down. And this sounds like the end. Now I'm a musician. I know this is my root note, my bass, my root, because I'm here. I have the A in the bass too, and it's somehow something with a fifth on A. This is what I know in my brain, but you can also hear it. You hear that here is home. You can feel it and you can hear it. You don't have to know it. It's something that you can feel, unless you are completely non-musical. Then you don't feel it. Or let's say it's not non-musical. If you are completely unexperienced with music, then you don't hear it. But as soon as you have some experience with music, and it depends on the cultural context where you come from, because I think people from a, let's say, European or Western culture will hear other things as logical progressions than people who come from the gamelan or from Chinese or Indian tradition. So there are differences in which culture you come from. But in your own musical culture, where you were brought up, you always will find some like rules. It's like grammar in a language. If you learn a language which is somehow acquainted to the language that is your mother tongue, then you will have a kind of a feeling how the language works. And the more languages you learn, the easier you will learn them, if it's not Chinese. I don't know. I haven't tried to learn Chinese, but does that make sense?
Yes, yes, it totally makes sense, and it's, to me, it's very. I'm also, because of my musical background, know about the fifths and know about root notes and know sort of the mathematics behind um, all the sounds. And sometimes that's helpful. I find it very interesting, but sometimes it can also get in the way
Yes.
of. And so I work with musicians who have learned entirely by ear, and in some ways they're freer of that. That they can just listen to the harp and just go with what feels good or what sounds good without having all of that theory and stuff in the background. So sometimes I feel a little like, oh, what would it be like to just make the music and not know exactly where it's coming from.
Yeah.
So
I have another idea. If you don't want to start with chaos, but if you want to have the feeling I'm doing something real. I mean, some of my students say, okay, now I have played around with these chaos ideas, but this is nothing real. Okay, I mean, it's not my opinion that this is nothing real. I think this is the real music. But if you want to have some more structure. And you could start with using just chord sequences, like wait. Let's say what I like always a lot is A minor, or even better is to take only the 1/5/8, because then it's open if it's a major or minor, and then you change between A and G, and then you leave a gap, maybe like this, 1 and 2, 3, 4, and then maybe you can start using your voice to avoid thinking too much about building a melody. Just feel what your voice would like to sing to this. Maybe And you know, I'm using a fantasy language. It's a non-existing language. I'm just letting something flow out of my throat, something that comes to me. And if you start doing so, maybe you could feel a bit blocked. You oh, what should I sing? I don't know. I don't trust my voice to find the right notes. So what you can do first is you can stay on one chord and just wait until some note is coming into your inner ear. And then you sing it, and maybe you feel very insecure, and maybe you sing and then just relax and take it as it is. It's maybe it's sounding very insecure, maybe it's sounding bad, maybe it's a wrong note, maybe there is nothing like a wrong note, there is just a note which you like or one that you maybe don't like so much, and maybe you can learn to like it. Maybe you can learn to like and as soon as you start to accept what you hear, it starts to change. It's like so from pain to beauty, so to
Mm-hmm.
say.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. I also teach voice, and when I'm first working with singers, I say just hum. Just start with a hum.
Mm. Mm.
Because people, it's somehow it's easier, it's a little more comforting, it's and less threatening because there's not a vowel involved. You
Yes.
can start there and then gradually open your mouth from the hum to a whatever vowel this wants to come out. Ma, 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 ma,
You
ma.
also could start even earlier. You could start with just
Just the breath.
and feel if breathing somehow evokes something.
Hmm.
Maybe you can even leave the pulse. You can leave out the pulse and just do it with. It's very mysterious.
It sounds like the ocean. I love
Yes.
that. I wanted to share a couple comments. Um, so Charlene says that she really likes setting aside time to just play without the structure and to keep in touch with that side of herself. And I love that. I love that concept. And Sharon says, I love that accept what you hear. It's so important in changing your resonance. Yeah, that's beautiful. Let me open it up now for some questions. If you have questions, just pop them in the chat and I'll ask Stefanie on your behalf.
Hmm.
Can you tell us what harp you're playing? You said it's a Dusty Strings.
Yeah, this is a Dusty Strings FH 36 H. I
Uh-huh.
think H is the model, not S. It's the here it's slightly curved, but the rest is rectangle.
Hmm. Do you
And
know what kind of wood it is?
yes, it's Bubinga.
Hmm.
Mhm.
I love
But
that.
I have more harps. I don't have only this one. I also have a small harp by Klaus Regelsberger. It's a German harp maker. And it's a harp with 33 strings, but only 90 centimeters high. I don't know how many inches this is. Maybe about 34 inches, I
Yeah.
guess. Yeah, it's not very high, but has a really beautiful sound. And this is my travel harp when I'm going to workshops by train. Then I
Hmm.
take that harp. And in Sweden, in my home in Sweden, I have a Dusty Strings crescendo, which I really like a lot too. It's a
Hmm.
different sound than this one, but if I should decide which one to keep, okay, of course I would keep that one, but it would be really hard for me to decide to give away the crescendo.
Hmm. Um, Mary asked, do you prefer improvising on a single course or double strung?
Um, um, I improvise on both. I have a double strung. I received a double strung in February this year, and I like it a lot. And what I do on the double strung is a different kind of music than I play on the single strung. Um, I don't know if I could say I prefer one to the other. For me they are different instruments with different music. What
So,
comes out of the double strung is completely different.
so what is it that's different when you say it's completely different?
You can play overlaying structures, and you can make other sound effects than on the single strung. On the double strung, I don't play so much melody. I would say I make more kind of soundscapes, but of course you also can play melody if you want. Um, so but the soundscapes, what I call soundscapes, it's like I don't have it out now. Then I could show it, but it's these overlapping effects.
Hmm.
I cannot do them as well on this harp, so I cannot do. I mean, I can do this, but not this because I'm stopping the strings all the time. Um, I don't know. I think maybe on the double string, it might be easier to get started for improvisation because you don't have so much control with your eyes. Because if you look at the strings, you don't see anything because it's it's a bit. I mean, after a while, it's getting better, but basically everything seems to sound well on the double string. So I think it's easier to get started on the double string. And what I use on the double string is shapes. I'm playing a lot with fingering shapes and just moving them around and see what happens. And then I react to what I hear, as I told you. And so it's kind of a mixture of chaos and structure. The
Hmm.
shapes are the structure, and the way where I place those shapes, it's a bit coincidence. And from there, it's like in tango, what I hear is leading me to my next step, and what I hear then is again leading me to the next step. So I'm reacting to what I hear, and what I hear, of course, is what I play. It's hard to describe where this all comes from. It's sometimes I say it's as if it was not myself who is playing, as something is playing through me. It's not me, it's somebody
Hmm.
else. But of course, I react to that. And it's like in, this Tai Chi partner exercise where you put hands together and you lead and you follow, and you don't talk about who is leading and who is following. You just try to react or to lead. It's somehow the same when I'm improvising.
Yeah. Nell asks if you could improvise a piece for us right now.
Yes, of course. I have done already. I mean, A piece not, but I will do some chaos, okay?
Okay, all right, some chaos.
I guess you knew. Suddenly, a sting came into my room.
That's lovely. That's just, I love how it started as just your chaos and then gradually turned into something a little more organized.
Hmm.
And I I totally appreciate what you're saying, that you don't know where it comes from, that it's coming through you. And this is, I have a podcast called Relaxing Harp Music that I do, just, it's all improvised. I sit down, I do a one take, and takes me about half an hour to do the whole thing beginning to end. And where it comes from is really, I think for me, is a result of all of my meditation practice that I've done over the years. I've spent a lot of time and sitting on a meditation cushion and listening to my own internal music. And so I think for myself, that's the easiest way for me to describe where it comes from. And then also for me, I just have a really deep love of the numbers, of the knowing that it's a one chord, it's a four chord, it's a five chord, it's, how the circle of fifths all relates to each other. I find all of that really fascinating. So some of it comes from that as well. And I love, so when I'm listening to you play just now, I'm listening, find myself saying, "Oh, that three chord is just gorgeous right there. That's just."
And this is the problem that I always have when I'm in a yoga class and the final relaxation moment comes, and then they start a tape with meditation music. And I cannot relax because I'm always analyzing. Oh, this is interesting. This is this chord. I have to keep in mind this chord sequence because this is really beautiful. I like it so much, and then I cannot relax because
Right.
I'm analyzing this music the whole time.
Yep, that's the same thing for me. The same thing for me. People say, "Oh, do you listen to your own music?" I said, "But well, I can, but it doesn't relax me because I'm thinking, oh, I could add this to it, or I could next time I do this, I can play this or play that." Yeah. Although I will say one time I gave my first CD I gave to somebody at a bed and breakfast, and then the year later I went back to the same bed and breakfast, and they were playing this beautiful harp music, and I'm like, wow, that's really beautiful harp music. Who is that? They're like, that's you. So I've been so far away from my own music that I didn't even recognize it as my own, but I loved it, and I thought, oh, now I must be doing something right when I'm feeling that in my own music. So that's wonderful. So so do we have more questions? Oh, applause from Nell and everyone here. Do we have more questions about improvising or Stephanie's story or yeah, you teach.
Yes.
You have students all over the world,
Yes, more or less. I mean, most of my students come from Germany, of course, because here in Germany, I think I'm quite known in the lever harp scene. I have one student. Yeah, I made some lessons with Teddy, who has left already. So he is one of my overseas students, and from Holland, a couple of people, and from Austria and from Canada. Um, but um, yeah, and I'm teaching one-to-one lessons, and I'm teaching online classes, but up to now I have only done it in German because there are not so many online classes in German. There are much more in English. So I decided to offer something for the people that speak my language, and so it makes things easier for me as well because I can speak in my mother tongue, which is much easier, of
right?
course.
Yeah, yeah, wonderful. Um, Nell asks, do you find it helpful to use certain chord progressions when you're improvising?
That was something that maybe 10 years ago was the way I started with people to use chord progressions, and sometimes I still do so. I have written a book which is called Klangbäder in German. The English title is Sound Baths. And there I'm using the idea of chord structures and lead them through progressions. Let's say something like so this is one of those structures, and then you can shift them wherever you want, and so on. And then you can just walk around on your harp and see which chord progressions you like. This is another way of starting. You have a structure, a fingering pattern, and you move it around on the harp and just see what sounds nice. And then I invite people to sing to the chords, and if you find a chord progression you like, you can let's say A F AFDE. And then you can repeat that all the time, and then you start singing along. Like, so. So you can find your way into improvisation and using the voice, because it's much easier to improvise a melody using the voice. It's
Mm,
much nearer to the intuition. And but on the other hand, I have patterns like let's say um, that's another pattern, and there's something which is always the same, and it's always the same principle. So this is for instance, this is I can show you my hands, and it's easier to see it. The structure is I have a root note, and then on the root note, one octave higher, I have a group of three, and this is the root of the chord, and this is the third of the chord, and this is a passing through note, and I keep this all the time, and then I go to the fifth of the chord, and this is the basic idea, and then I can walk around up here and form little melodies. Or I can go below, and then I get back to the root, and then I can shift the idea to another chord. Go back to C and to A. It's another idea how to approach improvisation. It's you can do it in a fixed chord progression, but you don't have to. And chord progressions are, I mean, you can form whamms out of, and for chord progressions there is no limit, no limitation, because everything somehow works sooner or later. For chord progressions, I have a funny game. You take dice, and they have 1 to 6, and one is in C major, one is C, and 2 is D, and 3 is E, and so on. And you just throw the dice and take, let's say, 4 numbers, and you take those 4 numbers. So let's try it. Say number 1. Which is number 1? Give me a number between 1 and 6. 6 including.
Oh, type a number in the chat.
Yes, type a number. No, yes, a 3. Yeah, 3. Okay, 6. 2 more. 4. 3, 6, 4. And 1 more.
There we go.
2. Okay, 3, 6, 4, 2. And my harp is in C major. The 1 is always the root of the major scale. Okay, so no, if I would go to G major here with my levers, then 1 would be G, and in C it's 1 is C. So we are not talking about major or minor, but about numbers. And 3 is E. 6 is A, 4 is F, and 2 is D. And then I'm going back to E. And this is my chord progression. I think I got it wrong. No, I have it right. But I shifted somehow for my feeling to start on 6, because to start on 3 doesn't somehow speak to me. But this is quite a usual chord progression, and it was just a coincidence that we found this. So, and you can try it out. I mean, believe me, almost everything, if you do it long enough, works.
That's right. We started out with a 3, but then as you played it, it just sort of naturally fell into the 6 being the root of the chord progression.
Exactly.
Which is...
And sometimes that happens if the rest is somehow logical. So it was a logic. Musical logical progression to play 6, 4, 2, 3, because it's a very familiar minor progression. Mm-hmm. But sometimes you find progressions that are not so familiar, and then it won't happen.
Yeah, then it's back to chaos. Back to chaos. One of the things, I love the idea of the dice. I think that's a wonderful idea, and I also use phone numbers. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yes. I use phone numbers.
Then you have more than six.
You have
And
more
I
than
want to,
six.
yes, and I want to avoid the diminished chord.
Oh, well, now how much chaos do you want to put in there?
Well, it's not so much chaos because I'm using it. It's not chaos. I think with the dice game, there won't be chaos.
That's right.
It
That's true
it
because you're
might
just
be
using
it
the
might
six.
happen that some unfamiliar chord progressions come out, but it's not chaos. Never.
Yeah, that's true when you're using the dice because you're just going one through six.
Yes.
Yeah. And when I use phone numbers, um, 0 and 8 and 1 are all the same. So
Aha.
I have a
Okay.
lot of so I have a lot of root chords, and then the 9 is becomes the 2.
Okay.
So that's the way I do phone numbers.
And
So
you
you can
have the seven as you
and
don't
I
avoid the
and,
diminished.
and I don't avoid the diminished, but I'll sometimes add a G on the bottom so it becomes a G7 chord.
Okay. Okay.
So that's how I play with that sometimes. But yeah. Yeah, that's wonderful. Well, we're getting close to the end here. We've been, can you believe an hour's gone by already? It's just, I know, we've had so much fun. Stephanie and I were talking just before we got on the call about how many hours I had for her to talk today. So I'm sure we'll have her back and talk some more about improvisation and ways that you can, I would really love to um, maybe actually set up a workshop for you with this group to talk about uh, connecting with your inner ear, your inner note, your inner voice, all of that, because that's where the improv really comes from.
Yes.
Is this not something that's coming from the outside? Sheet music is outside in,
Yes.
improvisation is inside out, and
Exactly.
so um, giving us more opportunity and and kind of a container to explore that inner.
Maybe it's even more, it's away from the ego, I would say.
Mm,
Um, improvisation, as I do it, is not so much I want to do something or I want to express myself. This is not what I want to do. Not anymore. I mean, it started different, but I learned that it's the more I'm not playing to show myself, the less pressure I feel, and I just can open up myself to see what happens to me or through me. It's more that I'm like a vessel, you know. Something is coming from I don't know where, somewhere. It's over everywhere. It's not only inside me. It's everywhere. Everyone can has access to that source, can have access to that source as long as you stay open and as long as your ego does not get in the way too much.
hmm
So forget about I want to show how good I am, and try to commit completely to the moment and to what is happening and take the risk to play something that doesn't sound good
right,
because then that's what the moment brings.
that's
Life
right.
is not always bright. I mean, always look on the bright side of life, but there are also the dark sides. I think I don't have to tell you about that right now. I mean, I don't know how it's in America, but in Europe we really don't have bright days these days. It's really
Right.
hard. So I take it as it is, and I see what can I do with it in my life.
hmm hmm Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. I keep wanting to ask more questions, but I also want to honor everybody's time, and
And
we'll
thanks for
definitely have you.
having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming, and we'll definitely do this again. And in the meantime, if you have questions, Stephanie, can you type your email address and
Yes.
website in the chat? And so everyone can get in touch with you if they want to ask you further questions. And then I'll post that information with the replay.
Yeah, my website, I mean, I can type it here, but it is in German. So you have to use the maybe the Google translation function or something like that. I have a few pages on my website are in English, but if you have questions, it's best thing is to contact me with email, and then I can tell you what you want to know. Because if you try to find something on my website and you don't speak German, then it might be a bit difficult.
Got it. Got it. Wonderful. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. Thank you,
Thank you.
Stefanie, for your time this evening. I really, really appreciate you coming and sharing. I'm inspired to go. I got to go teach lessons now, but I don't want to. I want to sit at the harp for a while and experiment
You
with
can
all
use
this.
it in your lessons.
Yes, I can. Yes,
Take
I
the
can.
dice with you.
I will take the dice with me. I will. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you again soon.
Bye.
Bye.